Greetings, y'all. You are tuning in to The Middle Gay, where we explore political topics, social trends, and everything LGBTQ+.
Who's going to hurt you when you figured out they're gay?
Let's delve in. Today's topic is conservative LGBTQ and the podcast that inspired this response video.
I don't know. I really think awareness should be raised that this is a thing because it's actually not a niche thing. Like, people think that it's a niche thing, but it's a lot of people. If you add up, it's probably a significant percentage of LGBT people are conservative. And
there seems to be some concern in the LGBTQ community about conservative gays and what it means for the larger community at hand. Now, I am totally in the middle. This is not to attack the left. This is not to attack the right. All it is to explore what it means to be a conservative gay and respond to the popular podcast that brought up this same topic.
We don't care about the fact that we're never going to fit in. We're never going to fit in, and we're fighting back against that, so you're going to make room for us no matter what.
In that clip, you saw them talking about needing to bring awareness to the community about LGBT that are conservative. My question would be, why does there need to be awareness? What happened to us in the community accepting one another for exactly who we are? Everybody's different. Everybody has their own point of view. And yes, there are some things that even I, once upon a time, would have been like, ooh, conservative, bad. But as you grow up and as you get a little bit older and you realize that it's the media, it is the narratives that are thrown at all of us that are dividing even within our own community. I don't think we need to bring awareness to these people. I think what we need to do is speak with these people, talk to one another, try to get an understanding on why somebody may be gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgendered, and conservative. Is it a fiscal thing? Is it a traditional thing? And to label people heteronormative or, saying that they're trying to please daddy, it's not helpful to the conversation, and it is so not helpful to bring us back together when we were once a very strong, united community.
Kind of conservative gay groups that are arguing, well, maybe if we were just a little more normal, then we could fit in and then society would accept us. And really, it's the crazy gays and activists and the people who wear, long nails and 37 pronouns, and it's their fault that we don't.
So after watching that, why do we need to fit in? Why do we need to force acceptance when really all we need is tolerance? Trying to fit in when we're not the same, that we are different than our straight counterparts, but that doesn't make it bad. And saying that we'll never fit in, that society will never accept us, well, guess what? You're putting up walls. You are totally stopping the conversation. And when you stop the conversation, we don't get any further.
It's a back and forth, right, when you look at the history of these things, because pure assimilation can't work. Because if you try to make yourself smaller and smaller and smaller until you fit into a society that's basically against you existing, you're going to shrink to the point of annihilation, right?
Living by the simple rule of live and let live is how most conservatives are. They have a tendency to actually encompass that, where no attack on the left, it's gotta be lockstep. You have to, I can't tell you how many times as a gay man, I was always assumed a Democrat, that I was always on the left. Now, I was, and still am, a registered Democrat. However, I'm more independently minded. The Democrats of my time are a little bit different than today's. I truly love the live and let live. You do you, man. Let me do me. or woman, or they, whatever you choose. But it's all about that. Just do you. We were fighting for our lives, truly fighting for our lives in the 80s and 90s, where the government did not accept the gays, and when HIV and AIDS, it was called grids, and they were not giving us funding. They were letting our brothers and sisters die. Now, fast forward it 30 years later, 20 years later, we have the right to marry. We have medication for HIV and HIV prevention. We're taught at a young age in sex education class in high school how to protect ourselves. So we have come a long way. That being said, I'm not saying that there's no homophobia, that there aren't people out there that hate, both from the right or from the left. There is a new Gallup poll that shows a 7% overall dip in our approval rating. Now, I know some of my fellow content creators talk about the blue hair crazy gays, and you know what? I'm going to say that's not necessarily untrue. I'm not going to say it's all them. But what's happening is that our extreme left is making the narrative, and that's making the extreme right tell the moderate right, hey, look, see, I told you. Look, I told you this was going to happen. When somebody like me, who literally saw the tail end of the AIDS crisis and had to fight, go to Washington, lobby in Albany, New York for the right to marry, I'm very concerned of this dip. Now, that being said, can we make it better? Yes. Should we be blaming this one or that one? No. But if we come together and talk to one another, and maybe we do need new definitions. Maybe we need to split the non-binary from the trans umbrella, because it is kind of two different things. There is a difference between a transsexual and a non-binary. I'm not discounting, before y'all get mad at me, I am not discounting their story or their issues or their lives, but it is different.
Going to be a job opening for a queer person who wants to talk about how homophobia is gay people's fault, right?
Totally.
Like, there's always going to be people who are going to pay to hear you say that. And so there's always going to be some cynical person who's going to come along and be willing to perform that part.
Well, and I feel like at this point, Blair White has helped carve out this like actual field in a certain part of conservative media that like you see more and more queer people occupying, which is the conservative queer influencer, which is, I mean, there's Blair White, there's Ariel Scarcella, there's Christian Walker, this boy on TikTok, this like insufferable twink Clarkson Lawson, who they all make the same videos, which is that they just go on and they're like, well, maybe if trans activists and non-binary pronoun people, blue hair, yada, yada.
So as you just watched the podcast that I'm referencing in this video, they were talking about an insufferable twink who happens to be on the right. Those words, that venom that this particular person in this podcast had spewed is not helping our cause. And maybe, just maybe, that is why a lot of the gays, lesbians, and bisexuals, and even transsexuals are moving more to the right. Maybe they don't agree with everything that's happening within the community, and they want to express it in their own way. And I talked about this earlier. When you put up those walls, you are stopping the conversation. We need to come together. There are bigger issues than somebody who's more right or more left. We need to stop name calling and clawing and being catty with one another and actually just, let's get along. Let's just get along. There is no reason why we shouldn't be able to in 2023. There was a time when it really was do you. If a guy wanted to wear a dress and have a beard and wear fingernails or any of that stuff, go ahead. Whatever. We were outside the social norm. We were pushing social boundaries. And now there's a difference between pushing the social boundaries and getting people to allow us in society and forcing it upon other people. And that is why we are having, again, as the Gallup poll showed, a 7% dip in our approval rating. Now, to break it down, that's the average. The Republicans, we are down 15%. 15. And this is the first time in decades that we've had these kind of numbers. Why do you think that is? What do you think that is causing these things? Me? I do believe it's a little bit of the crazy gay blue-haired freak. Whatever. Because you didn't need to wave a big giant flag. You just did you, and nobody cared. Nobody cared. Well, some people did, and it was hidden. But now, because we're so vocal, they are getting so vocal. And that's also causing part of this divide between us. And we shouldn't. We shouldn't. I personally, my job, I work as a direct care support for people with autism. One of my clients' parents, one's a Trumper, the other one's a fiscal conservative. They really could give a rat's patootie about what I do in my personal life. They've had their son with me in my care. And the narrative is, oh, she's a Trump supporter, he's a Trump supporter. They're evil and racist and homophobic. If that was true for every single person, then why do they let me do it? Why do they put their at-risk child in my care? And when you say, oh, well, all of this, we didn't want that. We did not want that when we said, oh, you can't judge all of us for a few bad here and there. When we were called, okay? We fought very, very hard to teach and to educate that sexual orientation is not a choice. And now, with the gender bending and the multi-million different genders, we are going against what we educated, what we did. And now they're worried. Not my particular clients. They know me. I've been doing it for over 2 years. I go on vacation with them. And you're going to tell me that they're horrible, evil people just because of who they vote for? It's policies. Now, I will be doing another video specifically on this topic because I have a lot to say about who you vote for and how you should vote. I will never tell you who to vote for, but that's a whole other topic on a whole different video. So we will be looking forward to that coming soon.
Gosh, just debasing yourself, your identity. I know people say this and I know it's like probably cheesy, but when I see queer Republicans, the queer conservatives, whatever, pandering to these swaths of, white cishet men or the Republican Party or the RNC or Fox News, and they're just like chipping away at everything that makes them special as queer people just for like a fraction of attention or congratulations or pats on the back or validation from these people who will never really see them as like fully human. It's upsetting to me.
As you saw in that last clip, the walls that we've been talking about through this entire video, I just want to say about that is what you put out into the universe is what you're going to get back. And when you say never be accepted, never this, never that, they're always going to hate us. Stop making it about other people and just be the change you want to see in the world. The energy you put out is the energy you will receive. And I'm not trying to be hippy dippy. I'm not trying to be like, ooh, all new wave. I'm just telling fact, plain and simple. Are there people that are not going to agree with us, never accept us? Absolutely. But when you make it all about the conservative bad, just like when some on that side say the liberal bad, it changes the dynamic between the two. You just can't do that anymore. We were always better, right? More accepting, right? We were supposed to be the good guys. Well, when you start using those kind of tactics, you're not the good guy. I just want to take a moment and show that I'm truly in the middle. And by that, I just showed you a clip where I actually believe that the host of that podcast does have some compassion. He does have a genuine concern for the community. I don't necessarily agree with a lot of what he says, but I do feel that he does have some heart. Even though he did call somebody an insufferable twink and that he could never truly understand why somebody of the community, of the LGBTQ community, is conservative. And the reason why he doesn't understand that is because he probably doesn't have any friends that are willing to actually tell him. Because there are more of us, of them, I'm, like I said, moderate, than a lot of people realize. It is one of the things that they have discussed at the beginning of their podcast. So I wanted to take this moment, show you this clip where I do see heart and compassion.
I think when it comes to people who behave like this politically in the LGBTQ community, a lot of people online and in real life that I've seen have this conversation, just basically the conversation, their analysis of it starts and ends at like, oh, well, these people just hate themselves and that's why they do this. My thing with that is that like there's probably some self-hatred in there for sure. But also, I think most queer people have at some point dealt with self-hatred as it pertains to our identity. Some people deal with it for a really long time. And yet the bulk of us don't turn to self-hating politics. And I also just think that accusing people in this derogatory way of hating themselves doesn't really leave the conversation with any room to go on. It's like, well, you hate yourself, so...
If you made it this far and you liked the content, please slap the like bell, ring the notification bell, definitely subscribe, and remember, comment down below. And children, fight nicely, because I will delete your nasty comments.
Out there, gay.